Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today it's time to do the final division standings prediction for the 2023 NFL season. And today we're going to be doing the NFC East. The NFC East for a while have been being called the NFC Least because basically every year all four teams are pretty much mid or trash. But last year changed it when every single team was 500 or better. And this year, a lot of people think this division is going to be really good again. So let's look at what they did last year. Last year, the Philadelphia Eagles would end up winning the whole division at 14-3 and would go on to make a Super Bowl run where they would lose to the Chiefs, but still made it there. They were insane. Jalen Hurts probably wouldn't have won MVP, but maybe would have if he had stayed fully healthy. He got hurt for a couple games near the end. Then the Dallas Cowboys were in the division race a lot longer than they really should have been, mainly thanks to Cooper Rush. They ended up finishing 12-5 and made the playoffs. Then we have the New York Giants, who ended up making the playoffs as well at 9-7 and beat the Vikings. That was a really hilarious game. And then they also had a tie, and the other team that tied was the 8-8 Commanders. The Commies ended up going 8-1. They were actually in the playoff race as well, like basically to the very end, but ended up being kind of failed when they, went with Carson Wentz. Yeah, I'd never go with Carson Wentz. So the first team to talk about is going to be the New York Giants. The Giants have been a big talking point because of the whole Saquon situation, even though it is sort of resolved now. It feels like they're just, kicking a can down by the road or down the road instead of actually trying to fix it. So what did this team end up actually doing last year? Well, Daniel Jones played in all but one game, and he was like a Phil Simms. He was like the new Phil Simms. When you look at his counting stats, like in today's NFL, they were horrid. Sub 20 touchdowns, under 3,500 yards. And even his passer rating at 92.5 is kind of low for, upper echelon guys. But he didn't really do anything wrong. He only threw 5 interceptions. He just was a very, he did his job type of quarterback. He got paid way too much money, but it is what it is. The team ended up finishing with just barely a top 20 offense and a near top 20 defense. Top 20 if you do points, not if you do yards. And it was mainly thanks to their coach that why they were actually, so good. Brian Dable was great. So what'd they lose? Well, they lose Kenny Golladay. That is a humongous loss. You lose the ability to make fun of this guy for being the worst contract in recent memory. I mean, bro, he got you guys like that one touchdown that one time. Nick Gates, Joe Feliciano, Julian Love, and Landon Collins are other losses. You didn't really lose that much. Whereas you gained Darren Waller, one of the best tight ends in football. You gained Ashawn Robinson, a great DT. A few other guys, including a running back who was really good like 2 years ago. Last year wasn't, James Robinson. And a couple other guys. Overall, you gained a lot more than you lost. I think that this is a very, upgraded team. It's just that you have the Daniel Jones problem where you're relying on Saquon. And if he does what he does most years of his career at this point, which is get hurt at some point, they're screwed. If he's healthy, they'll be good. So, very hit or miss team. Then we have the Philly Eagles, the team that is defending the NFC crown. Last year, they were a top 5 offense, both points and yards. They were second in yards and defense and top 10 in points. For most of the year, a lot of people would say they were the best defense in football. That was mainly thanks to the insane amount of sacks they had, as they had just so much talent on that defense. Now, they did lose their OC in DC, and they also lost some guys in that DC, or on that defense. TJ Edwards and Kazir White, 2 of their linebackers. Javon Hargrave, they lost him. And they lost, a couple guys in the O-line. Miles Sanders at running back, and then CJ Gardner-Johnson they lost. But they gained some guys. They promoted within for the defensive coordinator, and they overall gained a lot. Miles Jack at linebacker, Rashad Penny at running back, Terrell Edmonds, DeAndre Swift, Zach Cunningham, Olamide Zaccheaus, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. Jalen Carter, a lot of people think might have been like a number 1 overall pick if it hadn't been for, the whole car incident. They gained a lot of talent. Now, will they run it back? Will they break the curse of the division? Maybe. Because this team is still really loaded. It's all about, was Jalen Hurts' season a flash in the pan, or is it legit? Now we have the Dallas Cowboys, the team that a lot of people wanted to see Cooper Rush be the legit starter, and now everyone's joking that Dak's going to throw even more interceptions than he did last year. In only 12 games, Dak threw a very, very bad 15 interceptions, and yeah, Cooper Rush was, I would say, a better quarterback for the most part, even though his pass rating was worse. They were top 5 in points in both offense and defense. They were outside the top 10 in yards. And when you look at them, they lose Kellen Moore, which I think is a huge loss. Having Mike McCarthy have more control than last year is a terrible thing. You lost Ezekiel Elliott, which he was still a pretty good, short yardage back Dalton Schultz hurts. Noah Brown hurts a bit. Luke Gifford, Carlos Watkins, Connor McGovern really hurts. Anthony Brown and Anthony Barr. Who'd you gain? You gained Brandon Cooks, solid ad. Stephon Gilmore, really good ad. Rojo, A couple guys. And then you did get Mozzie Smith and Luke Schoonmaker. Those are pretty good. Overall, when I look at this team, I think they're going to be a really solid team. I really do think they're going to be a good team. It's hard to say how good they're going to be, but I feel like this is, like most years, they're going to somehow overperform in the regular season just to disappoint in the playoffs. And then we have the Commies. Now, the Commies they were very underrated last year. Their defense was really great, top 10 unit, top 5 in yards. Offense, not so much, but that's mainly thanks to, Heineke and Wentz being your quarterbacks. Now you're going fully in Sam Howell. You got a new OC in Eric Bieniemy instead of Scott Turner, and depending who you ask, he's either the best OC in football or he's literally a nobody who just got carried by Andy Reid. We'll see which one is true. They also lost a few guys on the O-line. Cole Holcomb at defense hurts a bit, and then J.D. McKissick is also gone. So when you look at who they gained, though, they gained Byron Pringle, Nick Gates, Andrew Wiley, Cody Barton, Emmanuel Forbes, and Jartavius Martin. But the big name I look at is Jacoby Brissett. Brissett is a great quarterback to add to where if this team is like they were last year, which is their defense can keep them in games, and they end up losing a few because of Howell, they'll have a backup who will be very solid to have in Brissett. So I like this. So what do I think about this division? I'm going against all the train of thought and have the Cowboys winning. Simply put, unless a team actually does it, there is no reason you should ever pick a team to repeat in the NFC East. It's been over 20 years, if I'm not mistaken, at this point, since the last time it's happened, or it's nearing 20. So I'm not picking the Eagles. I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I feel like they're going to somehow do just enough to win the division, and then when they win the division, they will probably get beat by the 49ers, get in the playoffs. The Eagles come in number 2. I mean, they're just too talented. I think the Commies end up getting 3rd. I think they probably make the playoffs as well, and the Giants get left out. The Commies, they're also just too talented overall. If their defensive line stays fully healthy, they're going to be insane. So we'll see. This has been ZonFox. If you enjoy this content, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. The next NFL video will probably be at the trade deadline unless something big happens before that. But we still have a lot of USFL content coming out and spring football stuff, so be on the lookout for that. And as always, have a great night.